And I even had that thing in my head. I'm like, is this weird? No, it's not. This is what my nervous system needs right now. Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So it's very exciting. It's Pride Month now, and if you're watching on the video, you can tell from my nails. Like, I'm so happy with how these came out. And if you're not on the video, I literally have all different Pride flags on my nails, and I did them myself, which I'm like even more impressed by.
Can you pull a leg up there so they can see your toes as well?
I've got toes. I have inclusive pride. I have the inclusive pride flag on my big toes, and then all the others are like the colors of the inclusive flag with some little sparkles on them. So yeah, it was funny because everyone's like, "Oh my god, where'd you get them done?" I'm like, "I did them." I'm like, whether they will last the whole of the month, I'm not 100% sure. We'll see. I may need to do some touch-ups to kind of get me through to the end of the month, because our big Pride celebration locally is at the end of the month, and usually like it's a one-off this month because everyone went up for World Pride in DC at the beginning of the month. So I'm hoping that they last the duration.
Well, that's the one good thing about there's many good things and then not so good things about the OCD brain is I'm the same way. Like, I can do that kind of nail art because I get just so focused, and it's like, okay, I only have to focus on making this flag right now.
Right. And it was funny because I was actually working while I was doing it. I was needing to listen to some old sessions. So I was like doing that while I was doing the things. I'm like doing like a line and then setting it and doing another line and then setting it.
All of a sudden you have a red triangle. You're like, what the hell did I do?
Well, and it was funny because I sent a picture of these to a friend of mine, and she's like, I can just picture you with your tongue sticking out, trying to get all the details exactly right. I'm like, yeah, that would be me. But surprisingly, we're not talking about nails, we're not talking about Pride today. We are now moving on to the final of our positions in our green shape, the contributor approach, which is super exciting because then we get to start talking next time about the green shape and all of the different things that go along with it. Now, once you'll understand all these different positions.
So first, we're going to start out with a reminder about the empowerment ecosystem. So, all right, I need to take a little sip of my draw all of a sudden. I just got the driest throat. It's like, no, we're not talking.
I'm like, I literally have like 4 cups next to me at the moment. I have like every type of hydration feasible next to me right now. And the second you did that, I'm like, oh, I need some too. Like, it's like, I think it's like yawning. Like as soon as somebody's like, I'm thirsty. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm thirsty too. Like, it like ripples through.
Oh, that was so weird. I was like, I'm fine. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not fine.
You good?
Yeah, no, I almost said I was fine again, but all right. And I'm back. So the empowerment ecosystem, what does the empowered approach look like? We have the 3 positions that we've talked about today. We're going to talk about the last one, the contributor approach. So the 3 positions that we have in the empowerment ecosystem are the creator approach, the supporter approach, and the contributor approach. All the positions in the empowerment ecosystem have consistently met needs, are at core the creator approach. The core feeling is want, and what do they want more of? And their focus is on their outcome or their outcomes. The first and most important difference with the empowerment ecosystem is that all the positions within the system are aware and mindful of the fact that they are part of the wider community. This community is the needs ecosystem. This awareness means that due to the interconnectedness of the community, how we engage with meeting our own needs or supporting others has to be approached in a self-first way. If you don't know what self-first is, we're going to throw the link in the show notes so you can listen to that episode. So, a self first way is taking care of our own needs as a priority at the minimum in ways that do not harm anybody else's needs or the ecosystem, and sometimes it actually benefits them. The first and most important position in the empowerment ecosystem is the creator approach, because every position in the empowerment ecosystem is engaging with the creator approach first and foremost before they can engage with any other approaches in this ecosystem.
Yeah, so the final position in the empowerment ecosystem is the contributor approach. So what is the contributor approach? And it's interesting because like last time we were talking about in the supporter approach, how do you support somebody without rescuing them and therefore without negatively impacting their needs and without dropping into that drama triangle? Well, this is another way that you can support people, again, without rescuing, without dropping into that drama triangle. So the contributor approach is fundamentally about contributing to another creator by doing something for them or giving something to them. So to be in the contributor approach, we have to first and foremost be in the creator approach ourselves, as Serena was just saying. We have to be self-supporting ourselves in order to be able to contribute without it being at our detriment, and ensure that we have the capacity to contribute by meeting our own needs, because as we all know, you can't pour from an empty cup. The other critical piece about being in the contributor approach is that we see the other person also as in the creator approach. We see them as a creator, not as a victim who needs rescuing. And this is true for everyone. I think that part of the challenge here is that when we look at people maybe who don't have the ability to do certain things for themselves, or people with different abilities and different capacities, we sometimes go, oh, I have to do that for them. And therefore we start to see them as a victim, and we don't see them as creators. The truth of the matter is these people are creators. They just have different abilities and capacities. They need to be respected, valued, and appreciated as whole human beings, creators in their own right, and a valuable part of our community of the needs ecosystem. Their inability to meet their own needs within the current environment is a flaw in our societal system to be fully accessible and inclusive, not a flaw in them. So within the empowerment ecosystem, it's the responsibility of the community system to support all of its members in getting their universal needs met. And when we're in contributor approach, it's another form of community support, same as it would be if we were in supporter approach. We can be contributing to someone who cannot do the thing for themselves, or we can be contributing to someone who can. So I can contribute to Serena and do something for her that she has the ability to do for herself. But the key thing is I'm looking at it as something I'm doing as community support, that I'm supporting somebody who is a creator in their own right, not, oh God, I have to do this for them, poor Serena, because if I don't, she won't be able to, and therefore I have to, and then I get into that shitty drama triangle dynamic, which really doesn't help anybody else.
How would she ever survive without me?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do sometimes have that thought, like, how would I ever survive without Serena? But the good thing is that's a momentary thought. Just because I'm like, where am I going to find somebody else who could do this with me in the way that we do it? That's an entirely different conversation. But no, the truth of the matter is I say that in jest. And like, if you've listened to the, we've shared with this on previous podcast episodes, where we had this kind of watershed moment where the moment that Serena said to me, like, if something happened to our friendship, like I would be sad, but I would be okay because I don't need you. I want our relationship, but I don't need it. And I was like celebrating, like it's that thing. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd have some things to figure out. That's for sure. But both of us would be okay because we know how to support our own needs and we know how to navigate these kind of things. So when we're in contributor approach, we're contributing for the good of the person being supported, not as a way of trying to meet our own unmet needs. So we're not looking for a tit for tat here. We're not doing this so that we get to feel good about ourselves. Oh, look at me, aren't I a good person helping this person who can't do it for themselves? All that kind of bullshit. That's not what we're talking about here. The only way to ensure this is to ensure your own needs are consistently and effectively met, i.e. by being in the creator approach ourselves and approaching contribution in self-first way. So we need to make sure that we are taking care of our own needs, because if our needs are taken care of, we don't need to be doing things for other people to get them met. And that's that's the reason we end up like falling into that like down that spiral of like, oh, I need to do this thing to help this person. So I secretly can like underneath, like our subconscious, like, so we can feel good about ourselves. I'm like, no, that's not true. I'm doing this to help this person. And that's when we end up then dropping into that rescue approach and ending up in the drama triangle. So it's important to recognize that if or how the person in the creator approach responds to the contributions that we're giving has no bearing on our sense of value or worth. So, I mean, obviously, it's really important that we do this with consent. We're going to get to how, like, the steps to get into the contributor approach in a moment. There is a very important step in there that makes sure that what we're doing is welcome and helpful and actually going to be supportive and consensual and all those things. But as long as we're doing it in a consensual way, we don't need the other person to respond in a certain way to feel good about ourselves, to feel valuable, to feel like what we're doing is it has value, and how we are and who we are has value. Because I think that sometimes what can end up happening is that, like, that this is an indicator that you're in the rescue approach, where it's like, if somebody's like, oh yeah, thanks, maybe because they're busy, maybe because they've got other things going on, and they don't come back with, oh my God, thank you so much, I don't know how to have done this without you. If you're looking for that reaction, you're in rescue approach, not in the contributor approach. We don't need that specific response from somebody to feel good about ourselves. So someone who is in the contributor approach asks themselves, how do I contribute to other creators by doing something for them or giving something to them? So little summary of the contributor approach here. We are in the creator approach first and foremost. That's the most important thing. Then, we do that by ensuring that our needs are well met and that we therefore have the capacity to support others. Because if we're trying to contribute to somebody else, but we don't have the capacity to do that, we're in that over offering, we're in that over giving. Those are all indicators of the rescue approach. The next thing is that we are viewing the person we are supporting as a creator as well. We see them as a creator first and foremost. We're contributing to them as a form of community support. We can be contributing to someone who cannot do the thing for themselves or someone who can. We're supporting for the good of the person being supported, not as a vehicle to try to meet our unmet needs. And if or how the other person responds to the contribution has no bearing on our own sense of sense of value or sense of self-worth.
So there are many different ways that many different types of contribution that we can offer or provide. So some of the examples that we can offer when we're contributing to an individual are physical. So this is like physically doing something for them. So for example, you could do the shopping, make them food, assist with household tasks or maintenance, making appointments, taking them to appointments. You can offer support with mental aspects. So for example, figuring out what needs to be done, planning and supporting with how to do those things, doing research, finding resources, organizing. There's also energetic support that you can provide. So sending energy, vibes, prayer, love, thoughts, whatever it is you send to people, sending those and stating such to them. So something along the lines of, I'm thinking of you, you're in my thoughts, to somebody when they need it, can be very supportive. Another aspect would be emotional support. So this mostly sits under supporter role, not the contributor, because you cannot emotionally process for someone, nor can you give them emotional capacity, but you can just support them with creating their own. So, however, there are ways you can contribute to their emotional well-being, for example. So validation is one of those ways, reminding them that their perspective, feelings, etc., are valid, as long as they are not rooted in harm for themselves, others, or the ecosystem. You can provide them with empathy. You can reassure them that you understand how they feel and why they feel the way you do. And that's a really important part. Like just saying, I understand. That there's been a lot of times, like I can think of a certain instance where I've said something to Claire and I've been like, I understand your feelings. She's like, do you really? And then I explain and she's like, okay, so you do actually get how I'm feeling. But just, we're so conditioned to kind of these call and response support almost. I think It is that you say things and it's like because you want to understand, but it's like, do you actually understand? And that kind of figuring that opens up a conversation where you can actually come closer together in understanding. Because if you don't understand, it's like, I feel like I understand, but I actually don't think I do. Can you help? Do you have the capacity to help me understand where you're coming from? That's just something that I've noticed that, a lot of people use these, I guess, buzz phrases and they don't really they're saying it. It's all like above the neck. They're not ingraining it and rooting it within their body.
And being understood is such an important thing. Like feeling understood it just helps us feel seen. It helps us feel like known. It helps us feel connected. And I think that is often like underestimated and undervalued in our society, where it's like you think you need to understand a situation, but understanding a person can really be supportive for them.
I mean, as I'm about to say this, I'm like, well, duh, this makes sense. But understanding the person you're trying to support and understanding exactly what they're going through is important, because, you know, we've talked about it so many times that what might meet your needs in the moment may not meet, you know, the person you're trying to support, their needs in the moment or ever. And it's like, unless you have that understanding, you're basically throwing noodles at them. And like, go back to our episode, we were talking about the noodles, like
drowning in a pile of noodles. I don't even like pasta.
Right. Like it's I didn't realize exactly how important it was until I was like, no, like this is something that I feel like so many people they say it and they don't actually embody what understanding is, or have the capacity or time to. Anyway. So some other ways that you can help support emotionally are with acceptance, reassurance, letting them know that they're not alone, letting them know how you feel about them, acknowledgement, and that can be acknowledgement in witnessing, acknowledgement in what's going on in their situation, co-regulation. Now, this is being a safe person to be there and to support their nervous system and regulating by supporting, holding them and reassuring them.
And this is like co-regulation is one of these things that like I think that part of this is part of the reason that this shape is so important, because a lot of the time when we think about when we talk about needs, obviously we're talking about how do we support our own needs, because we have to take responsibility for taking care of our own needs. That's part of what it means to be an adult. And I think that sometimes people can take that to an extreme where they create this kind of isolation, and they're like, I've got to do it for myself, and I can only do it by myself, and I've got to be by myself, and I've got to make, and that community care, that community support is so important. It's a function of like, it's part of who we are as human beings. And so learning how to engage with community support, allow community support, contribute to community support is so important. And I think co-regulation is one of these things, like we've talked about this a lot on previous podcasts, where it's so important that we don't just process what's going on for us emotionally from an intellectual standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, but we also do it from a somatic standpoint. And somatic standpoint requires us to engage and support our nervous system. And yes, we can do that by ourselves. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do. If nobody is around, or if there's nobody around who is safe and what have you, there are things you can do to support your nervous system in a myriad of different ways. And we've talked about some of them in the past, and we're sure we will share more about it in the future. I'm desperately trying to back away from the rabbit hole that I'm like, I'm tempted to kind of,
you're like dipping a toe in as you walk around.
I'm like, Claire, pull yourself back up again. We've got the rest of the episode on the contributor approach to record. And so there's lots of ways of doing that. And one of the things that can be so supportive and so helpful is co-regulation. Like if you think about it in terms of like a distressed child, like if a child is distressed and they don't have it's helpful to kind of think about it in these terms, because the child often doesn't have the same ability to regulate their own nervous system that we do. They don't have the same emotional capacity, they don't have the same understanding of how their nervous system works. And so if a child is kind of getting very like worked up, a lot of the time, if you just hold them close and you take some deep breaths, they will start to kind of end up breathing with you, and their nervous system will start to calm because they feel safe, because they feel supported, because they don't feel alone. And just because we're adults and we can do those things for ourselves doesn't mean to say we have to. And sometimes as adults, we may have conditions that mean that we can't regulate for ourselves in that in the same way as other people would. And so this is another way where it's okay. This is where the contributor approach can come in to help. And I mean, I remember. And it was funny. It was kind of early on in our friendship, and I'm sure you will remember this. Like, there was an incident that happened during Fantasy Fest, which is
Fantasy Fest.
If you've not,
I thought about it before we started talking. I was like, oh, that's the yep.
Yeah, and
before the tutu party.
It was, yeah. And it was one of those where my nervous system was shot. Like I'd had this really bad experience, and I still knew about my needs. I knew how to take care of my needs and everything. And Serena came over and we just laid down on the bed and she just held me, like she physically held my body. And it's so, I can see like so many people being like, well, that's a bit weird, or like, are you two seeing each other? Is there something more going on here? Because that's the sort of thing that we normally only do with our intimate partners or with our kids. Right. And the truth of the matter is,
because we know that, like,
yes. There have been a number of times we've thought that where people have thought there was more going on between me and Serena than just a very good friendship. And I'm like, honestly, my life would be so much easier if I felt that way about Serena. Honestly, I mean, the fact that we are so similar and we like to do things the same way and we are interested in the same things and the way our brains work is similar and the sort of kind of support we need is similar. Like, honestly, part of me's kind of disappointed. If, like, to be frank, I'm kind of disappointed because it would make my life a lot easier. I mean, obviously, Serena's married; that's another factor. But generally speaking, like, my life would be easier. But I think that so often we don't allow ourselves within our friendships to have that kind of intimacy. And like intimacy, people think about as being a sexual thing, and it doesn't mean sexual. Intimacy can be intellectual intimacy. It could be emotional intimacy. It could be physical intimacy that is of platonic nature, and there could be sexual physical intimacy. I mean, you can have sexual intimacy that's intellectual. Like there's all these different forms of it, but like people shortcut and go, oh, sex. It's like, no, that's not what we're talking about here. But if you like having that person who is a safe person, and when I needed it, Serena was that safe person who we just literally laid there, and I allowed my nervous system to calm down. And it was so funny because I didn't ask for it. Like, it was like Serena just did it. Like, it was like instinctive. She knew that's what I needed at that point in time. And there was a part of me, I'm like, and I even had that thing in my head. I'm like, is this weird? No, it's not. This is what my nervous system needs right now. And it was the first time that we'd had that experience of having that platonic co-regulation in a physical way. And it was, I mean, yeah, she didn't ask me. It was consensual. Don't worry. Like I'm not fighting her off, going, "No, get off me!" Like,
I don't want a hug.
I mean, there have been moments I've been there in our friendship as well. And again, so I have no doubt in my mind that if it hadn't been and Serena also knows, if I'm not in that space, I'll be the first one to say, "No, I don't like. I can't deal with physical connection right now." But that was one of those things, and I didn't even know the term co-regulation at that point. That wasn't like and it's something that's become much more known in recent years. But I really want to ensure that we recognize that, like the second we go co-regulation, I think people kind of go, oh, is that codependency, which is like this dependency thing, which is then a bad thing. And it's like, we're not, and it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. This is about us being able to contribute to another person, which is why it's part of the contributor approach, by allowing the calm that we cultivate within our nervous system to help another nervous system to create calm as well. And I wasn't dependent on Serena to do that. I could have figured it out for myself, and I would have done, and it probably would have taken me a lot longer, and I probably wouldn't have made it to the tutu party. There would have been a whole bunch of other things that would have happened. But I could have done it. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. It was just in that moment, that contribution, that support allows me to get there quicker. And like, if you know anything about the body and the nervous system, like if you understand, like we know that the electromagnetic field that the heart puts out is way more than the brain puts out. And therefore, it's not surprising that by just being in close proximity to somebody else who is calm, that has an effect on our own nervous system. In the same way as, like, if you're around somebody and you're not calm and centered yourself, if you're around somebody who's like all chaotic and all over the place, like sometimes you can start to feel that as well, and it's like, oh, I'm feeling some kind of way right now. So we are understanding that our nervous systems can have effect on the nervous systems of the people around us, which is why it's really important for us to, one, make sure we're taking care of ourselves and being responsible for what we're bringing into different situations, but so important to recognize that this is one of the ways in which community support can happen. Now, obviously, I'm not saying if you see somebody freaking out, you grab them and hug them and be like, no, this is what you need, I'm contributing to you. go through the steps of the contributor approach to make sure we're doing this in the right way, in the right approach, and that we are it's consensual and it's supportive to the other person. But if you have these safe people who are around you, I now know there are people who know that in that situation, it reminds me very much of there was a video that did the rounds probably about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I mean, and this is we're probably about a month or so from this being released, so it's probably 3 months ago now, maybe more. There was an example on the Survivor TV show where there was a woman who was, I believe she was a woman who was autistic. And if you've seen Survivor before, you know Survivor is cutthroat, and they're like, a lot of the time they will do anything to one up or to undermine each other and to get ahead and to sabotage the other people. And this woman trusted another one of the contestants and said, look, because of my autism, sometimes when I get overstimulated, my nervous system basically goes into chaos. And there are these things that I need to help me like regulate my nervous system again. And she was like, it was like squeezing her hands, it was holding her tight, and it was reassuring her. And there were like she basically gave him the playbook. Like, when this is going on, this is what I need in this situation. And not long afterwards, there was they were doing this game, and I can't remember. It was like a thing where there was like a balance board or something, and she had to get things in, like balls to roll into the holes or anything. And it was like super intense, and everyone was like cheering her on, like, and she did it. Now the interesting thing is, this other contestant was on the opposite team, I believe. Now I don't watch Survivor, so I haven't. I'm going based on the clip I saw. This is what I believe was going on. And because of the energy and the intensity and the excitement and the pressure and the stress that she was under, all of a sudden she started to go into this like sensory overload, and she started to have this her nervous system was like in this like I'm struggling to regulate myself kind of thing. And the guy was kind of watching her, and the hostess was like, you can go and like talk to her if you want. And it was so beautiful to watch this experience of co-regulation. Like they're literally
I'm so glad this is going this way. I have to say, like, my heart was in my throat, being like, if this fucker used that against her, like, I was like.
One of the interviews that he gave was like, I know that Survivor is a competition, but like the fact that she has trusted me with this, like, I've got her back now. Like, if she needs this, I'm there for her. And it was almost like, I think
humanity
he even said, like,
wins.
like, right? He was like, she's like part of my family now. Like, I would want someone to do this for my family, so I want to do it for her, kind of thing. And just watching the two of them, and he's like, okay, take some deep breaths, and he's squeezing her hands and he's squeezing her tight. And you can watch her, like, her system and her nervous system start to regulate by being like, by this guy following this playbook that she'd laid out for him, which is like, and in that moment, he was in the contributor approach. Like, he's like, okay, I've got you, and here's the support she has asked me for. Here's the thing that I want to do in this situation, and here's how I'm going to show up in that moment. And so this is one of the things, like, as I said, the second you see co in front of something, I think a lot of people think dependency. As I said, they think of codependent and all that sort of stuff. And but when we're talking about co-regulation, as long as you are approaching it as a contributor approach, and we'll get into the steps on how to do that in just a moment, this is you engaging with community support.
And I want to say, in line with the co-regulation, like, dependent on your relationship with somebody, like in the example Claire just gave, that person said, these are the things that will help me regulate in these instances. Unfortunately, we usually don't get a playbook like that when somebody is having a moment, like, what's going to help them. And things that normally don't help are telling them exactly what they need to do, telling them to calm down or relax, like those kind of things. And we think we're doing it. It's like, calm down, like, and we're doing it to calm them down. What I've found with the co-regulation, and it was actually that example that Claire had given, like, that was really my first time doing that. Like, I wasn't raised in a co-regulation type of environment. I'm an only child. Like, I've learned to do these things for myself, some partially as coping and partially as conditioning, survival, all those things. But in that moment, I was like, oh, like, I didn't need to talk. I could have talked, but I didn't need to talk. It was like, you just kind of trusted the energy of it and being like, in this won't like, okay, like she needs to be hugged. And then at one point you were like, can you put your hand on my head? And I'll never forget
Mm-hmm.
that. And I was like, all right, well, that's kind of like, I'd never thought of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
something I do quite often now when I'm co-regulating. Like I'll move my hand. If I'm giving a hug, like normally I go in and I'm fun size. So I'm usually around the waist level and I'm like, look at me, I'm a belt.
Mm-hmm.
And now like I'll move my hand, I'll place support like on different
Mm-hmm.
areas. I'll put my hand on somebody's head when they need it. And then I'll take some deep breaths. And it's interesting because before I'd be like, all right, now let's take some deep breaths. But now I've found through co-regulation, I can take some deep breaths. If that's what I'm like, I think this will
Mm-hmm.
support them. I do it for myself because deep breathing, I mean, it's like water. Like those
Yeah.
are little bonus dings. Like just it's
Right.
going to be good for your system. But it like you don't have to have a playbook for co-regulation.
No.
You can just like what would help your system, and that's what meets your needs may not meet somebody else's needs, but I find
Mm-hmm.
just doing it and seeing if they take to it can be a
Right.
lot more helpful than me being like, all right, let's take some deep breaths now. So what do you think about like
Yes.
that
Yeah,
aspect of it?
I mean, I definitely think when it comes to the breathing thing, just taking deep breaths yourself, especially if you're looking at them or you have eye contact with them, like it encourages them to do it, but you're not like saying, okay, you need to take deep breaths right now. I do think that the breathing is especially because when it's a physiological process, like our bodies naturally find rhythm with the people around. There's a reason that that menstrual cycles sync up. There's a reason that if you hug somebody for a long period of time, your heartbeats will tend to sync up. Like the human body will sync up with the human bodies of the that are surrounding it. So if you take some, like, continue to take deep breaths, because there's two reasons for this. One is it keeps you centered and calm, because the most important thing is you to take care of your needs, so you are staying centered and calm, so you continue to be that calming influence for the people around you. The second thing is that, as I said, because they will tend to fall in lockstep, especially when if you're in that overstimulated place where your nervous system is like all over the place. We don't really know what to do. The body will start to follow the example of what's in front of it. So like if you start to they will naturally, most people will naturally kind of start to take some deep breaths. The other thing is that when it comes to the other aspects and the other things that you can do in terms of co-regulation, obviously, if somebody is triggered, if somebody is overstimulated, if someone's nervous system is chaotic and all over the place, I think that in the situation with me and Serena knew me really, really well, which meant that she understood me, and she understood like the things that tend to work for me, generally speaking, when I'm feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, whatever it is that's going on. So I think that like you had a little bit of like, I hadn't given you the playbook, but you kind of already had figured out your own playbook, which helped. Now, one of the things that you can do, and again, we'll like this kind of contributor approach steps are coming, but I think when we're specifically talking about co-regulation, I do think it can be helpful to say like, would it help if I hug you? Would it help if I if I held your hands? Like, and they may not know, and it could easily be, the response could be, oh no, what have you, in which could be like if it's okay with you, I'm going to try it. Let's see if it helps. And if it doesn't, then you can let me know and we can back off and we can try other things. So you're giving that, like, you're not forcing something on them. You are asking for consent. But sometimes, like when you're in that space and that if your nervous system is in chaos, like it can be hard to know. Like, I'm very lucky because of the work that I've done. I tend to know what is going to be helpful. And in fact, what's like right front and center of my mind to share was another experience of co-regulation where Serena was not there. I was at a local studio, and I just done a massage workshop, and immediately following it, they were doing a breathwork workshop, and I've done a lot of breathwork over the years. So I'm like, and they asked if I would like to stay, and I'm like, sure, why not? I'll stay on for that. And they were doing this type of breathing, which is very, very deep and can have a significant effect on your nervous system. Now, I was very aware that breathwork is, there are certain modalities, and breathwork is one of them, where if you go deep with it, it can cause there to be certain releases. It can cause a trauma release. It can cause an emotional release. It can cause a little bit like somatic exercises can, like if you do them slow and deep, and you got like, there are things that can cause this like spontaneous release, like, because what ends up happening is the body feels supported or activated in a way where it feels, okay, now feels like a time when I can release this, or this thing that I'm doing is encouraging this thing to open within me that is going to allow this thing out. And I have done a number of these in the past. And as I'm going through the process, I start to feel my body releasing. And I'm like, what that looks like. So we're all lying on the floor and we're all going through this breath work. Now, what that looks like is my body starts shaking. And when I say shaking, I don't mean like a little shiver. I mean, I was borderline convulsing on the floor, like, and not in a, it was sort of somewhere between shivering and convulsing. It was in the middle. It was significant. Let's put it that way.
You weren't like a dead fish just flopping on the
ground.
ground.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not going to like do an injury to my body in the sense that like, it's not that kind of an intense, but it was prominent and it was sustained and it kept going on. And it was, and the interesting thing is that I'm sitting there now, bear in mind, my brain is still active while this is going on. And while this is going, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going into a release now. I've done releases before. I know what the process is. I know how it's this. Now, I'm also aware that the person who was leading this breathwork workshop knew nothing about the fact that this was even a possibility, much less. And this is why, if you have not been trained in modalities and you do not have the ability to deal with a trauma release, an emotional release in a way that you can support somebody if they're going through that, please don't do them. I think there's a lot of people out there who they learn something themselves and then they pass it on to others without realizing that just because they had one experience of it, that's not the experience everyone else is going to have. There is a reason that there are trainings and certifications and courses that you go through to do certain things to be able to share them with others. And this is one of those where I'm like, and my brain is like, oh, not only does this person not know how to guide me through this, there is literally nobody else in the room who is going to know what's happening and who is going to know what to do about what's happening. And the problem is I'm the only one who actually knows how to deal with this process. And I'm the one going through it. And the problem is that when you're going through a release like that, sometimes you lose the ability to communicate, which is what was happening with me. I couldn't speak at this moment. I knew I just had to ride it out. I knew I just had to let it go through its process. And I can hear in the room people starting to panic and people are starting to like, what is happening right now? Like, is she like, because is it like, sometimes it can look very similar to a medical event. And if you don't know what the difference is and you don't know how to figure out what the difference is and whether you need to call an ambulance or whether somebody needs support with navigating what they're going through, you can be causing some harm. So I'm in my head and part of me is like a little bit amused by this because I'm like, well, this is going to be a big learning curve for the people who are leading this workshop right now, because there's no way to learn other than to be faced with the scary situation of something's happening and I don't know what to do about it. And at the same time, there's nothing I can do right now. I just have to let this happen because the only way through that kind of release is through it. Like you have to just let it process out. And I knew it would eventually do so. It took its time. I was probably there for, I would say, a good 20 minutes before I was able to verbalize anything. Now, luckily, I knew somebody else in the space, not just the person who was running the workshop. And the person who was in the space was somebody who had done body work on me before. And the very second I was able to say anything, I said her name and I said, I need pressure all over my body right now, deep pressure. And they were like, I got you. And like that point, they started putting pressure on my arms, on my shoulders, on my chest, on my legs. And that pressure, and again, it was a co-regulation. I needed something in terms of pressure on my body. Now, if Serena had been there, she probably would have just like snuggled up behind me, grabbed me. Yeah, exactly. And grabbed me and like spooned me in the front of everybody. As that kind of co-regulate, because she knows my nervous system. She knows what's needed in those situations. But I was able to get enough. And once I started to get the pressure, that was the thing that I mean, it would have been fine. It would have taken me a lot longer for my nervous system to regulate on my own. So I would probably have been there for another hour or so, just waiting it out. But because I was able to speak and be like, hey, I need, and then again, a little bit like with Serena, where I asked her to put her hand on my head, I was like, can you put some pressure on my skull? Can you put squeeze my feet? Like I really need to feel grounded. And because she was someone I knew, someone I trusted, someone I had body work with, I was okay with her touching me. I didn't have to worry about somebody I didn't know or didn't feel safe with. But that's the thing, is that like, and so I was able, because I knew what was going on, I was able to verbalize that and be like, this is what I need right now. And they were able to provide that. And then very quickly I came out and I'm like, so this is the reason we don't do breathwork workshops unless we have somebody who's trauma informed in the room and someone who knows about emotional regulation and those things to be able to support if this sort of thing happens. Because you're lucky it was me, because I knew what was going on. Because if I hadn't known what was going on, I could have been really freaked out by what was going on in that moment. I knew, I'm like, I've just got to breathe through it. I've just got to let it happen and then ask for the support as soon as I've got it. So I think that if you're in that position where you can ask for help, do so. If you're in that position where you don't know how to support, ask questions to see if it would support. And if they don't know, ask if it's okay for you to try it so you can see. Like, and you say, like, I've heard about co-regulation. I think this may help. Are you open to me trying it so that we can see if that can help? And a lot of times people in that position are like, okay, let's try it. And then they might be like, and then you can be like, okay, is there anything else that might help? Like, so like, would it help like if I get some pressure on your feet? Would it help if I squeeze your shoulders? Would it help if I got some pressure on your head? Like, are these things? So you can start to ask questions, but again, being mindful of, like, if you bombard somebody who is overstimulated and dysregulated with questions, it's going to add to that dysregulation. So like what I would suggest is that when you find something that seems to be working, sink into that for like, let that have an effect on the nervous system. And then when you have, okay, it's calmed a little bit, then you can ask the question, okay, is there anything else I believe this might help. Would you like me to try that? Or do you want me to stick with what I'm doing right now? And give them, so again, make it easy choices, take time. This is a slow process. The more you can slow it down, because what happens is that when somebody's dysregulated, everything gets really fast and really up here and really stressful. And like, we want to bring the energy down. We want to slow it down. So we want to move slowly. We want to make sure we're not doing anything to activate them further. And we also want to kind of use that kind of sense check of like, okay, let's try this. Let's, because sometimes you can just hold your hands out and see if they will give you their hands. And if they give you your hands, that's a starting point. You can like squeeze their hands. You can squeeze their hands together. That's a starting point, because it's something, again, somatic, it's anchoring in the body and it's getting the body to feel supported. And then at that point, you can then start to progress from there.
3 things. We'll see if I remember all 3 things. Something that I do, because I mean, I suffer from anxiety, as we've talked about, and I'll get into a point where my entire system is just kind of like, nah, and I can't, like, if somebody asked me, would this help? Like, prior to knowing how to regulate my own system and doing this work, I would have been like, if you said, do you want me to touch your feet? I'd be like, get the fuck away from, what do you mean you want to touch my feet? Like, some of these things are a little bit, they're super simple. And so we don't think, like, I feel like I am on the verge of a complete meltdown and you want to hold hands. Like, you really think this is going to help? So it's kind of something that I've found that works with people who aren't really versed in self-regulation is I'll be like, if there's like a tense situation, I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna shake out some of this energy. It's like, this might help you too, like, and kind of do it for myself so they can see, like, I'm doing this for me and this could help you too. And another way that I tend to broach this with other people is, there are times, like, if somebody's in a complete meltdown where it doesn't really feel appropriate to ask anything, like to actually speak.
Yep.
And I'll, like I said, if I know the person, if I know like their situation, like, I'll start with just putting a hand with a little bit of pressure somewhere that is.
Can I just jump in? There's actually a step before that, which is you can just sit with them, like sit next to them, like start off just by being in proximity to them. And something that is that depending on the person, like, you may want, like, if you feel like sitting close to them isn't working, you might want to change where you're sitting. So like sitting side by side can sometimes feel a little less confrontational than sitting face to face. And it may be that you start sitting side by side, and then maybe you sit face to face with them. And if you can see, oh, they seem a little more agitated, you go back to side by side. But just sitting next to them, like just being next to them, being calm and deep breathing yourself, that is your first step before you touch them in any way, shape or form. Go ahead, because what you're saying is right and important. I just wanted to like sneak that one in the middle.
Yes, and usually I don't see somebody in that state and I just go up and touch them. Like there is that, there is that sit and try to resolve that way. A lot of times, like I use this a lot with my closest people, is if I can see that there's some sort of like, if somebody's trying to regulate and they seem to be struggling, I'll just put like a little bit of pressure and like put my hand on their leg if it's appropriate, or their arm or their hand, and just hold it, not even say anything,
or their back.
and just, or their back, like, yeah, just anywhere that, like, usually I just kind of intuitively like, this is where my hand is feeling drawn to, and not say anything, just so they can feel the support. Yes. And the other thing, I was making notes. Claire had mentioned something about when things happen, like especially like within somebody's system, and you know everything's like if I'm and Claire comes in and she's trying to help, and then all of a sudden Claire's like and we're both standing there together, like that's not helpful. And what came to me is that a lot of people, I'm going to read it again because oh no, I just deleted that. Let's do the back button. If you're not staying calm in a space like that, you're not helping. And doesn't that like all of a sudden, don't you become the victim, like bouncing over if you're allowing somebody else's to you? Like that's what's kind of going on in my head, because like obviously Claire and I know this work inside and out, so I can see bigger pictures and scenarios, and on like, I'm talking kind of superficial level. Like what's your thought on that?
I think that there are, I mean, if you're in the drama triangle, then in that situation, you're going to ping very quickly between the victim approach and the persecutor approach, because what's going to happen is that you're taking the victim approach because you're becoming the victim of the other person's dysregulation, but then your dysregulation is going to add to their dysregulation. So you're actually, and this is more to do with like, this is not so much about how it's being approached. It's actually more to do with the harm dynamics, which we're going to get to in a couple of episodes time, because what's happening is that we're allowing somebody else's, like we're allowing somebody else's state to affect our state. So that's kind of victim approach, because we're not like taking responsibility for our own state and what have you. But actually when like we then start to harm somebody else because we're choosing to stay in a situation where we're adding to the dysregulation as opposed to stepping away, which would probably be way better. It's like, again, it feels like there's so many, it's kind of a messy one, because like it's like, okay, like I'm feeling dysregulated, but there's probably an element of rescue approach in there, because it's like, oh, I feel like I must help, but by being dysregulated myself, you actually add to the dysregulation, so you actually become a persecutor approach, and then but you're actually doing harm in that situation. So it's kind of blurry and a little messy, that one. What I will say, so you
can't like be in contributor, like you can't. Do you believe that you could actually be in contributor and then ping quickly over to victim in that situation? Or is it more nuanced?
I think that you probably aren't in contributor approach. I think you're probably in rescuer approach, because if you were in contributor approach, the first and foremost thing you do is be in creator approach yourself. Do I have the capacity to support this person? If you are in you don't have the capacity to support anyone in that moment.
Or if you get to that point so quickly that you can't regulate it, then you were there and didn't even realize it.
And it's like but that's why I sort of say, like, it's so important as you're going through this. Like I said, you got to take care of your, like, you don't, I think, again, people think this is a one and done thing. It's like, oh, I was in creator approach at the start, so I'm going to stay in creator approach all the way through. No. You got to, like, needs are going to change. They're going to be affected by what is going on in the world. Okay.
One time in 1992, I was in creator approach, so I can step off from that point.
Exactly.
It's a different
And
time.
I think that so often what ends up like, because things happen, like situations happen. Like if I'm like in creator approach, I'm in my morning routine here in my nice little home, and I've done some yoga, I've done some meditation, I've had something nutritional, I've taken care of my needs, I'm feeling nice and resourced, and I walk out of the door, and then all of a sudden I get side swipes, like maybe physically, maybe I get some verbal harassment from somebody. In that moment, I'm not as resourced as I was when I was like however many minutes before. Now, depending on what I do in that moment, I can be like, okay, I'm in creator approach. How do I deal with this? I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I'm going to take care of the needs that have been negatively impacted by the situation. But it's like, because we're in these continuously changing, like, the one constant is change, right? Like no two moments are the same, which means that things can happen. So like, yeah, you might have been in creator approach at the beginning, but if you notice that, hold on a second, I'm no longer there, or I no longer have the capacity to act as a contributor or a support in this situation, it's so important for you to be like, okay, I really want to support you right now. And I realize I'm getting dysregulated. And if I don't step away, I feel like I'm going to make this situation worse right now. Is there somebody else you can reach out to? Is there something else that you can do? Like I get if someone's dysregulated, you don't want to be like, I'm out, deuces, ciao. Like, yes. Like that's you don't want them to feel abandoned in that moment. And it's better for you to step away than to add more harm to the situation. And the important thing is communicating in that moment. Like, I really want to be here for you right now. I really want to support you right now. And I can feel myself getting dysregulated. Let me step away and see if I can regulate myself so I can come back and support you. Or I can feel like I'm going off on a tangent right now. I don't think I'm going to be able to come back, or like manage expectations. But I think that, and this is also tough. Like if someone's in a dysregulated state, communicating with them is tough anyway, because like if they're all like, like, and it may just be like, it could be like, I feel like I'm not really helping right now. I'm going to step away for a moment because like just to make sure I can get myself regulated again, because I don't want to add to what's going on right now. Because that's, again, like, this is community care. This is community support. If you are supporting somebody else to your own detriment, you rescuer, drama triangle, forgotten about community support, community what? Wait, who? Like, that's not helpful in that moment. And so, like, I think that sometimes when Serena and I are talking about these things, we get into like super nuanced conversations. And I can imagine people going, how am I supposed to remember all of this? Like this is like, once you kind of are doing this work for a while, this is why it might be worth you coming back and listening to these episodes, maybe a little bit later on when you understand a little bit more about the needs and about how they apply. Because you may get more of the nuanced conversations a little bit later. Not that you can't understand them, but it seems like a little complex when you like, I just found out about contributor approach. What? Hold on, this is all a little bit complicated right now. Like, when it comes to these podcasts, take what makes sense to you in the moment and leave whatever. If something feels like it's a little in depth for you, just leave it. Like, skip over that part, like carry on and then come back to it maybe at a later date if you want to. So like we do get, because I mean, we're also nerds for this. So it's like we get super like, oh, how does this work? And what about this? And what about this? Like, we like to understand it for ourselves. But I'm like, you don't have to be thinking about all of these things all the time. Just if you are aware of like, I'm in creator approach, I'm seeing this person's a creator, I want to support them by being in contributor approach. How do I use those steps to get into contributor approach? To start off with, that's a good starting point.
And like, I just want to reiterate what Claire said to make sure it doesn't get lost. Like, if you are not in a place where you're supported and like you can't pour from an empty cup, like it is not going to be helpful for you to be in that situation. That was a really hard thing for me to learn when I first came into a relationship with Claire. I had never really done it before, and been like, you are in, like, there have been times where Claire has been at like a breaking point in a puddle, and I'm like, I really want to be there, and I just can't. And it was so hard for me, like so hard for me to like not want to jump in. And at that point it would have been full on, put on the cape, the mask, like to the rescue, like I'm coming for you. And like, tune in for that. You got to watch the video for my superhero pose. But like that, like, especially with the contributor approach, especially with the self-regulate or the co-regulation, like you can step away and it won't feel comfortable. It might not feel good to the person, and they're going to have feelings about that probably. And that's for them to figure out when they're not in the situation they're in. And you can do that together
Well, yes, and it's okay for it to be both. Like in those situations where I have been at a breaking point and Serena has been at her own breaking point and not able to support me in those moments, it's the both and. Like, yes, I have feelings about the fact that she's not there, because I know I'm going to get through this a lot quicker with that co-regulation and support that I have. And just to mention another form of co-regulation is also like verbally processing. Like, it doesn't have to be physical. I don't want people thinking that co-regulation is just a physical thing. Like, sometimes co-regulation is being that safe person that you can process verbally with, so that gets your nervous system to calm down. And that's one of the ways that Serena and I never opposite ends of the country right now. Like, and at one point we were in different continents. Like, Serena was still a very big part of co-regulation for me. But a lot of that happens, like, I let me process verbally, and that allows my nervous system to calm down. What was I saying? I interrupted myself there. Come back, little thoughts. Oh, it's gone completely. What did you just say?
About like not being able to support, and that if you do support when you're under resourced, it's going to make it worse.
The both and. Here we go. We got it. It's back. Yes.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, you'll love the little ADHD moments. I thought that was gone for good at one point there. I'm like, well, then we reined it back in. Woohoo! Teamwork. So when it comes, you can have the both and, which is like, in those moments, did I have some feelings about the fact that Serena was not able to be there for me? Absolutely. Did I also completely understand and want Serena to do what was necessary to support herself? Because I know if she's not in a good space, she's probably not going to be very helpful to me with where I'm at in that space. And also, I don't want her to put herself at more of a detriment. So all of those things can be true at the same time. I think so, like, we can get caught up in oh, this person's going to have feelings about it. Yes. And they can also have feelings about it and also go, and this is what's best for both of us right now. And I really appreciate the fact that you want to be there. And I totally get that you can't be there right now. And I want you to take care of yourself, because I know you need to take care of your needs as well. And all of those things can be true at the same time. And they're all things that will get processed through. And some people will be like, me. Like, as in, like, you can't be here for me and I've got all my feelings about it, and they may not have the other side of it, in which case they're probably in victim approach because they want somebody else to come in, rescue approach, to come and rescue them from the situation, which means they're probably there in the drama triangle, which means that you need to be very mindful about staying in the empowerment ecosystem. You can't force them to join you, but you can choose not to jump into the drama triangle with them.
Be like, the grass is literally greener over here. Like, it's green.
Everything's green over here. Like,
come this way. Come to the bright side.
Absolutely.
So we've gotten into some of the ways, and we've gotten really deep into the co-regulation way of how to support somebody else. There's also some examples of how we can contribute to the community as a whole. So some examples of this are like volunteering. And this can be formal or informal volunteering. Like, volunteering is doing something for the benefit of the community. And I think a lot of people think, well, volunteer for the community, it's a set thing and it's an organized act, and it's I'm
signing up to volunteer.
It's every Tuesday at the soup kitchen or whatever it is. Like, when Claire and I started the Fairy Gay Mothers, that was a form of community support and volunteering. Like, we were just going to support the community by giving hugs. Like, and I've never actually said it that way, but I'm like, yeah, that was like, that was exactly what that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another way could be showing up in support. And this is a big one that is very underrated. So showing up in support of your community, of the people within your community. So showing up at realities. Yeah. Some people do need to show up at reality, but what I was trying to say was showing up at something like rallies, community meetings, events, fundraisers, those kind of things. Even if you can't support monetarily, like, and I think a lot of times that's it too. When we have like these big community gatherings and whatnot, there oftentimes is an aspect of giving to the community financially, and we're not all able to do that. We're not all able to do that at all times. So just being there, just being a presence, being another person there to support the community within the cause that they're they're supporting as a whole
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you've got all these things where like there's lots of different things that happen within the community. Yes, there are like people think about showing up in support. Like when you think about like a rally, like, yeah, I'm showing up in support, or like a community meeting. Yeah, I'm showing up in support of that. But even just at local events, just being a presence. Like, I mean, one of the things, I mean, we live in a very, very small community here, and like just being there, like great example was a few weeks ago. I was heading home from drag bingo. I'd done my fairy thing for the day and I was heading home, and I bumped into a friend of ours, and they're like, hey, is there any way you'd want to come and support like the girls at one of our local drag shows tonight? They were like low on numbers, and when you're low on numbers, it affects the energy in the room, and therefore like and she was like, well, like we'll comp your tickets. And I mean, obviously we took money to tip the performers and everything, so we still contributed in that way. But just being there, just actually showing up butt on seat at the event, that was supporting them. Now, I'd already had a really long day at that point. It would have been nice to just go home, sit in bed and chill for a bit. Like that's really what was it. But that was like, I'm like, yeah, I can do that, and that would be fun, and I want to. But I think people don't think about those sorts of things as support. Like supporting in terms of like local community initiatives, like liking, sharing on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all the things. These are all things that you can do to support as well.
Right. Like word of mouth is a big way of supporting. And it can be, it can be so simple. Like there was an event, a virtual toast a couple of months ago in Key West, and it happened to be on one of my close friends' birthdays. And I was like, look at this. They're trying to break a world record for the largest virtual toast online for your birthday and for this thing as well, which is a very important thing. But like in just saying that, and she bought tickets to it online.
Aww.
And it's like, I'm not able to be in my community right now, but I can still support and put it out to other people. And it's like that was like a 2-minute text. Like,
and I just realized
it was like a 2-minute text. I
just realized I skipped ahead and started doing the next one. Like we're going through points, and I'm like, oh, that was the next thing that we were going to talk about. So I'm going to let you talk about what the actual thing is, because I gave some examples, but I didn't talk about what the actual thing that you're doing in terms of.
So the actual thing is, it just fits so seamlessly into that showing up. So it's amplifying community initiatives, support, events, information. So amplifying the important things within the community. And it can be done through sharing on social media, word of mouth, doing like taking little actions that just like spreading the word. Spreading the word can be a big deal. Like like
disseminating, like, and also disseminating. Sorry, I just realized I jumped into the middle of your sentence.
Just to finish the thought, it's just it's simple. Like contributor is a lot of simple acts that have big impacts,
right? And like just like things like disseminating information. So I had dinner with a friend of mine last night, and I was talking about the fact that one of the initiatives that we have with the Fairy Gay Mothers is called Magic Meals, where we are working with different local food establishments to provide a no-cost meal to anyone who needs it, no questions asked. Well, we're a relatively new nonprofit. We don't have the same financial support as some of the other nonprofits, both locally and nationally, which means that we can't afford to be funding like a meal every day for every person that needs it. We don't have that that support yet. But so what we decided was there's lots of other things in town that that provide food support to those who need it, because we wanted to make sure that if like somebody wasn't able to get a magic meal with the frequency they needed it, here are other places, here are other ways that you can get support. So we put together a list of like the other ways that you can get food support, and we initially we were using it as a resource for us so that we could give it to people who maybe needed it, who are looking for Magic Meals help. And then I was like, hold on a second, we need to make this available to everybody. So we made it available on our website, and we are like, if anybody asks about any food things, I'm like, yeah, I mean, there were things on there I didn't know about. And I'm like, that's really helpful to know. And they're all in one place. And now let's share that out with the community. That's another way of amplifying messages in the community. That is a way of contributing to community support. So I hear you asking, what are the steps to connecting with the contributor approach? Now, we've talked a lot about why you should be in contributor approach. It's helpful to know how to get there. It's very, very similar to the steps of the creator approach and the supporter approach. And there are 6 of them. So the 6 steps to connect with your contributor approach. Step number 1, creator approach. You need to make sure that you are in creator approach and that you are viewing and relating to the other person as a creator too. And remember, this is something you do at the beginning, and you continue to check in with that and make sure you are continuing to be in creator approach yourself and take care of your needs as you are doing this. Step number 2 is offer. So you want to ask whether the person would like the contribution to ensure it is welcome, consensual, and would feel supportive. So it's like, would this be helpful to you right now? Would you like some support right now? Number 3, what? So what contribution do they want? Now, again, if they, a little bit like with the supporter approach, you can ask this as a direct question. What support would you need? Would you like right now? And if they know the answer and you have the ability and capacity to be able to provide that kind of contribution, you can just jump to step number 6 and begin providing that contribution. Like, it becomes really easy. And the more you have these kind of conversations with the people who are around you, the people who you're close with. I have a rogue hair that is somewhere and I cannot figure out how to get it. I'm going to just try and carry on. I'll figure it out later. Like people like Serena and I, like, we often, like, I tend to know what I need. Serena tends to know what she needs. So it's like, we like, hey, how can I help right now? What, like, would you like some support right now? Yes. If you could do this for me, that would be amazing. Great. Do it. Done. Like, it becomes a super quick and easy process. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's also important to recognize that people may not know. They're like, yes, I would like some support, but I don't really know what support would be helpful right now. So at that point, you can move on to the next step, step number 4, which is, I'm seeing 5 steps on this list, not 6.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure that out. I'm like, wait a minute, we're missing a step on there.
I don't think we are. I think maybe there are only 5 steps. Bonus! You don't have to do a 6th step. I thought there were 6.
There is 6 in the program.
So we had a little moment where we were like, there's only 5 steps on our list. There are 6, we promise. We just forgot to add one to these notes. I don't know how that got missed off. Anyway, so if they don't know what would be helpful, or you don't have capacity for the thing that they would like, you can move to step number 4. Now, step number 4 is providing options. So you can offer options that you could provide that align with your current capacity. So, for example, they may go, oh my God, I need a grocery shop right now. Could you do that? And you might be like, I don't have the capacity or the time to do a full grocery shop for you, but I could nip to the corner store and they're like a few essentials that I could grab and swing by to you for the moment. So that's a way of like offering an option with something you do have capacity for that maybe isn't alignment with what they want, but it still is going to be contributing and supportive. So the next step, number 5, once you've provided your options, is choice. So you let them choose the option that resonates most, or if they would prefer for you to do so, you choose the option that would resonate most with you. And then step number 6, which is the one we have missed off the list, you take action. You do the thing. Like, it's really easy. It
just seems so obvious. We were like, they'll get it.
They'll get it. They know that they actually have to do it. I mean, because like doing I'm in creator approach. I'm going to offer help. I'm going to ask what help. I'm going to provide options. I'm going to let you choose it. And then I'm not going to do anything. That's probably not very helpful.
I'm just going to stand here and be like, well, they didn't tell me to do anything else.
Yeah. That was all the steps, right? So yeah, and it's like you'll get into the habit, as I said, you'll notice that the steps are very similar between the supporter and the contributor approach. And initially, when you first start doing this, again, it can seem a little bit clunky of like, I've got to go through the steps. But once you get used to it actually becomes super quick and easier. So Serena and I can go through this process normally in a couple of minutes, and it makes such a difference to be able to get that contribution and to get that support from the community and the people around you in a way where it's not moving you into rescuer. So anything else you want to share about the contributor approach before we move on? Mm-mm. So now we know the 3 positions of the empowerment ecosystem. We want to know how to move from the drama triangle to the empowerment ecosystem. So in the next episode, we're going to answer some of the most important questions on the drama triangle and the empowerment ecosystem, and also explain how to move from a disempowering approach to meeting your needs to an empowering one. So this is like this is what we've been building up to, like over these last 7 episodes. But you needed the information in those 7 episodes to get to this point, as is so often the case with our content. Like, so often when we get to the program, like we're in the program and we get to the part where I actually give the practice, people are like, oh my God, this is so simple. This is so easy. We're like, yeah, of course. It has to be simple. Otherwise, you won't do it. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of information you need before you can apply the simple. So that's where we've been getting to. So next time is all going to be about like where the magic happens. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next time. And remember, between now and then, to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review,
as it will help more people find us.
And remember, to be in the contributor approach, you need to first be in creator approach yourself and be viewing the other person as a creator approach too, to ensure that you are supporting without jumping into that rescue mode.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.